Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the Liberty Report. With me today is Daniel McAdams, our co-host. Daniel, good to see you today.
Good to have you back, Dr. Paul. How are you?
Oh, I'm glad to be back. I had to get on an airplane.
Oh, no.
You know, I don't get along real well with TSA. I think they know I voted against them. But nevertheless, a lot of people put up with it. I don't know why we're talking about the TSA, but you're
going to get agitated.
But I've always said, I can't imagine there isn't more rebellion. There's so much complacency. And that'll work into actually to our program today, because we're going to be talking about more surveillance and more controls that came out of 9/11, and that has to do what Trump and Barr are preparing for. Yeah. They want to treat all American citizens, and this may well not be a stretch at all, as potential terrorists, and that anybody can be arrested, and anything they do is going to be recorded. They're going to use social media. They want to militarize the police, and Trump really likes this idea. He brags about it. I've given more military weapons to the police than anybody else, this sort of thing. But the one thing that I think is happening, and it's been a problem for a long time, is they don't care about defining the role of government. First, they don't seem to express their interest in a free society. So for me, how do you find a role of government if you want to live in a free society? Well, they're always involved. They're always intervening in our lives and the economy, the whole works. And they claim their justification for doing all this, whether it's the Patriot Act or anything else. We need to keep the people safe. Yeah. Anything that'll make the people safe, and the people, buy into this. And I heard it, and you may have heard it in the congressional office after 9/11. They said, Ron, you have to give up a little bit of your freedom, for safety. So that is the story they do. They don't realize it is not necessary, that it escalates, and you give a little bit of your liberty up for a little bit of safety and security. Believe me, we end up with neither one, and that's where we are today. It looks like to be perfectly safe, they'd have to put us in a prison cell. Yeah. We'd be safe from outsiders, criminals, but we wouldn't be safe from the criminals who put us there. So, but this to me looks like a tremendous escalation on violations of civil liberties, although they're always doing more things than they're even legalized to do. They had the Patriot Act to protect us. That didn't work. So they had the Freedom Act, and that was supposed to reform it. That didn't work. We've had the CIA for a long time to protect us. That hasn't worked. Yeah. And it goes on because they just demagogue it. They tell you, oh yeah, we have to make you safe and free. We have to go after the terrorists. They literally mention that some of these policies are going to be like how we look for terrorists. And that is put them in prison, pre-crime, and without, proper due process. That to me is very dangerous. This might be one of the boldest step in this direction. And let's try to wake up a few people to what's going on.
Yeah, definitely we need to. And it's like they want to return to the good old days of if you see something, say something.
Right.
We're all together in this. Let's get some color-coded threat charts. And these are two things that are really related, and that's why we're talking about today, is, as you point out, pre-crime, but also the surge, and this is on Monday, it's reported, Trump said the Justice Department is going to launch a sweeping crackdown on crime. He called it the surge, a reference to the 2007 U.S. troop surge into Iraq. They might want to research that surge in 2007 because A, total failure. B, it really did pave the way for Al-Qaeda and ISIS to resurge into Iraq and Syria. The unintended consequences of that ridiculous surge are still haunting us today. So talk about naming your brand new shiny law enforcement thing after a total failure.
The excuse they always used, of course, we were hit on 9/11. The excuse is they're terrorists, and we have to go after them. And that is important to make sure that we're safe and secure, and that they say that we're protecting our Constitution and protecting our liberties. Now, they're using the same excuse. Now, I guess if you're very naive, you can buy into this excuse that you can go to Iraq, destroy a country, take their oil, run this country, keep wars going for 19 or 20 years, and say you're protecting the Constitution, although the war is undeclared, and they're going to protect our liberties at the same time they do the Patriot Act. It's pretty hard for them to say, before it was the terrorist extremists, you don't want them coming over here to do this. That's why we have to do this. We have to give up a little of our freedom and our money to do this. But now they're saying that it's so dangerous, we have to accelerate it. And this is control. Everything in social media, and also anything you buy, they're going to watch what people buy. And, you know, I thought, I couldn't believe this, that they said that it will be, they think they can use automatic intelligence, you know, because they can put all these things together. He's a suspect. He's a red flag. It's sort of like on the gun issue. Red flag, he's bad. Put him in jail and let him prove he's not going to be a bad guy. But they say that they can pick out the people who are going to do harm, and then they invite, well, what are we going to watch for? Well, what if he saw a doctor for depression or something?
Yeah.
Oh, I got him, you know.
Got him.
And you know, they're going to look for language, you know, hate language, hate speech. You know, sometimes that's just when you disagree with somebody.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it should remind some people about how the true totalitarian society operates. It is through exactly this kind of attitude where hate speech is disagreeing with the government. And I always thought being a good patriotic citizen is your willingness to point out the errors of the government and the politicians. But evidently there's not a lot of Americans right now joining us on that.
Yeah, that's true. And so here's Trump on Monday where he's announcing it. In the coming weeks, he's talking to the Chicago Conference of Association of Chiefs of Police. In the coming weeks, Attorney General Barr will announce a new crackdown on violent crime. Let's call it the surge, he said. And here, this is where it gets even more chilling, Dr. Paul. To help keep you safe, there's your word, I've made $600 million worth of surplus military equipment available to local law enforcement. So here you go. More of your local beat cop with a tank and a bazooka coming in to talk to you. And so people say, well, what's the problem with this? What's the problem with the militarized police? Because it creates the atmosphere, it creates the mentality among the police that you're the enemy. You know, they're not out to keep the peace, they're out to keep you down. And there's no one better, I think, than John Whitehead, our friend down at the Rutherford Institute, who painstakingly catalogs why a militarized police force is terrible. And anyone who's interested can just pick up one of his columns. But here's something that John did back in August. Violent crime remains at an all-time low. That's something that people they don't believe looking at the headlines. But here's something else that he quoted in August. Mass shootings have claimed the lives of 339 people since 2015. During that same time frame, police in America have claimed the lives of 4,355 citizens. The cops are the ones that are shooting people. And here's just a couple of quick examples that John does such a great job in pointing out. Texas police officers sent to do a welfare check on a 30-year-old woman seen lying in the grass near a shopping center, took aim at the woman's dog as it ran toward him, fired multiple times, killed the woman instead. In Chicago, a SWAT team wearing Army fatigues with black cloth covering their faces and wearing goggles, armed with automatic rifles and throwing flashbang grenades, crashed through the doors of a suburban home and proceeded to storm into the bedrooms, holding the children at gunpoint. One child, 13-year-old Amir, was accidentally shot in the knee by police while sitting on his bed. So many stories of these. Yeah. That's what's wrong with militarizing the police force.
See, to me, it's a problem of who's responsible. We should be responsible for our own lives and our safety. If the government's responsible for our safety, there is no liberty because they have to have a policeman at our doorstep and protect it. Not only that, they would have to have the cameras and the policemen on the inside because there might be a conflict. Well, somebody said, I heard an argument the other day, well, we got to be inside that house with cameras and all. So it is insane to think that they can prevent it. Child Protective Service are supposed to protect the children. It's all designed for protecting the children. And all I know is that there's been, and you already mentioned the case, abuse of the children. The children are tools, and they lose control. So it is who's responsible then? Well, in a family, the parents are responsible. It's not the federal government with militarized police coming in to make sure their safety and prevent law. It's impossible to do this because you have to make everybody a prisoner. You have to have martial law, and of course you have to totally give up on all civil liberties because they wouldn't have enough time to try everybody, and that was what happened to the prisoners, sometimes teenage kids during the terrorist attacks in the last 15, 20 years. They never got a fair hearing, and some of them didn't fare so well. And they were they could have been teenagers. Yeah. And there's always somebody going to say, "Oh no, you might make a mistake, but you got to put them all in prison." One time there was some famous person, I can't think of his name. He said that if you penalize one innocent person out of 100, that is worse than letting the rest of them go without command. Convicting an innocent person. And you talk about, you're convicted by the time they decide that you're a threat and that they're going to incarcerate you or hold you down and do whatever they think they have to do.
Yeah, it is very dangerous. And, even just since 1990, Whitehead writes, $4.2 billion worth of military equipment transferred to your local police department. And guess who loves this, Dr. Paul? The military-industrial complex. Jobs, jobs, jobs. They're going to churn out more of this garbage to get it into the cops' hands. It's so dangerous. We both read a good piece on the second part, and you've touched on it too, which is that it sort of goes hand in hand with this surge, which is pre-crime. Whitney Webb, who does really terrific work on civil liberties and other things. She's a good old-fashioned investigative journalist. She wrote about William Barr, the Attorney General, last week issued a memo to all U.S. attorneys, law enforcement agencies, and top Justice Department officials, launching a new program called National Disruption and Early Engagement Program, i.e. pre-crime. Directs the FBI to identify, assess, and engage potential mass shooters before they strike. Disrupt individuals who are mobilizing toward violence by all lawful means. The FBI will conduct a training of the best and brightest across those who receive the memo. So this is a kernel of the pre-crime. There's a lot more we can talk about, but this is really, the two of those taken together are very chilling.
During the Iraq War and the wars that have been going on there, and the Patriot Act written rather rapidly, even though it had been written many years ago, and they were just waiting for a Pearl Harbor moment in order to put it in place. But the Patriot Act is supposed to, protect us all, but in many ways it has it's only what it's not protecting us. Is it doing exactly the opposite? They're taking away our liberties. It's every bit as bad, but the people are so naive that we've already been invented, and that's why our pledge to defend the Constitution against all foreign and domestic enemies. But nobody seems to think, well, I don't think that's nobody, because lately there are more people waking up. Yeah. There are some, because fortunately the FBI has been caught, but for some reason I don't think anybody is going to really get punished on that. I think when these programs come up, the abuse is there, it's obvious, but the real abuse is the civil liberties of the individuals. But if you're an honest person in government and you go through the process and say, there is really abuse. I mean, Ed Snowden, he tells you what's going on, and he's just committed treason, and nobody will listen to him. So this is it's turned upside down. When they say they're protecting our liberties, they're destroying our liberties. And conditions, and we've talked about it, conditions are going to get worse worldwide and economically, here in this country. And right now, of course, there's a lot of trouble on the streets, and poverty and people sleeping in the street. But, this is nothing like I recall the 60s. I mean, the cities were burning. And, of course, Nixon, how did he win election? Law and order. Yeah, was a good law and order president, It's something that people need to think about. But I think the most important principle, do you want to live in a free society? Most people, sure, we want to live in a society. What should the role of government be in a free society? To make us safe and secure?
Yeah.
No. Give us assigned money? No, that's not the main thing.
Free
the
stuff.
main thing is to protect our liberties and let people sort this out, whether it's monetary policy or health care or education or whatever. But no, we want to protect everybody, so we give them free health care and free education, and oh yeah, we'll let them borrow money endlessly. It'll be wonderful.
Yeah.
And then they'll come, everybody will have a good job because they'll have a college degree, and always making people safe and secure. I think the desire to be safe and secure is the driving force. But they consider that an entitlement. They consider it a right. This isn't something like they're down on, every once in a while you'll meet some people, honest people, they were down on their luck and they were 6 months on food stamps,
yeah.
and they recognize it and they were grateful. But that's not the majority now. The majority is, the statistics are showing that a lot of these people, even though I don't think they know what they're talking about, they support the socialism.
Yeah.
And some of those statistics are rather scary.
Yeah, it is, and it just corrodes the mind, and it leads to this kind of corruption. We talk about this pre-crime. It's dangerous. This is one of the things the FBI is going to be doing when they identify the people who haven't done anything, but they think they might. As you point out, they use artificial intelligence, all these high-tech things to determine who might be a bad guy in the future. It's going to involve detention, controlled or court-ordered mental health treatments, substance abuse, counseling, electronic monitoring, and these are those that the FBI determines are mobilizing toward violence. And that's a quote from their own memo, court-ordered mental health treatment. Doesn't that sound like something we remember from the 20th century, when if you were questioning the Soviet state, you were forced into psychiatric hospitals? It's really dangerous. But here's the thing that's even worse. They're going to force you into therapy if you have mental illness. Here's how they describe mental illness. And this is not some conspiracy. This is Michael McCarty, Assistant Director for the Counterterrorism Division of the FBI. Here's how he talks about it. Racially motivated violent extremism, anti-government, anti-authority extremism, animal rights, environmental extremism, and abortion extremism. Well, that word extremism sounds really scary, but who gets to define what that word is? That's what makes it chilling.
It's someone who disagreed with you politically.
Yeah, extremism. Yeah, exactly.
And that is it. And this whole principle of hate speech, it's a subjective decision to be made. And a lot of college kids, endorse this whole idea.
Yeah.
You shouldn't hurt somebody's feelings. They're so sensitive and fragile, and they say that's a crime. We believe they should be punished. Well, wonder if they ever thought that maybe that type of system may one day punish them for taking a different opinion of somebody who's in office. They don't think of it that way. They think, well, these are my ideas, and anybody who challenges the principle of collectivism and free stuff, they're doing a great deal of harm, and they're destroying our freedoms to get stuff for free. So therefore, they resent that and think that that's hate speech, and it's so close. You mentioned, the medical treatment, the psychiatries, the political speech, and it's just this whole notion that government has nothing to. They're not dealing with anything that is put in the Constitution. Where is it in the Constitution that says that they should be talking about this, or going to war in the Middle East and being in Afghanistan for 19 years and having prisons where we just keep them and there's no actual declared war? But people say, well, so far it's not me. But now what we're suggesting is pay attention. They're moving in the wrong direction. Although it's been bad, it's been gradual, it's been insidious. But this is a bold move. They are putting into legislation and laws. They did a lot of this anyway, but they had to be a little bit careful. But now they're going to have license. Yes, what we need is the police need more tanks. Yeah. Because we're going to have a lot of people to arrest. And what did the authoritarian countries? They had concentration camps. And I know we'll get criticized for saying that's just fear mongering. you're committing a crime.
Yeah.
You're fear-mongering. You're
Yeah.
turning the people against the government.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we don't want to turn people against the government per se, but we want to turn people against the ideas that endorse authoritarianism and dictatorship. That's, to me, should be our goal.
Yeah, exactly. And you see a lot of people with the thin blue line flag, and then next to it, come and take it. Well, guess who's going to come and take it? It's the thin blue line. It's the militarized police that views them as a threat. And this is what Trump doesn't get. He loves this stuff, but guess who's going to be the target and who's been the target? All of his deplorables. All of these people are going to be the targets. Here's the FBI talking explicitly about its coming further attack on social media and our freedom to express ourselves. Quote, "The advent of internet and social media has enabled promoters of conspiracy theories to produce and share greater volumes of material via online platforms that larger audience of consumers can quickly and easily access." That's a problem for them. And what is conspiracy theories to them? Anything that the government doesn't agree with. And how many conspiracy theories of the past have been proven conspiracy facts in the present over and over and over again? We're even seeing it now in the Duma chemical attacks in Syria as more comes out. Find out that we were right after all, that the whole thing was a cook-up. So this is a direct threat against any of us who are not blind, deaf, and dumb, following down like drones, listening to what the government says. They're coming after us, after all of us. The Second Amendment's a wonderful thing, but it's not going to do a doggone thing to protect us when you've got your local cop with bazookas and tanks coming. You're not going to water the tree of liberty that way. So we need to address this issue before it starts. Americans need to wake up. Trump people need to wake up and start thinking about civil liberties, because you guys are next on the chopping block. Dr. Paul?
Very good. And I just wonder whether it's the Halloween season that might have brought this on, because it looks like they're creating a haunted house. In the old days, there was a bit of fun, even though our family was never big champions of Halloween. But the haunted house was things that, was really still play and all. But this looks like it's for real. It's right on Halloween, too, and it's a horror show that really is horrible. And the loss of liberty, all you have to do is think about somebody and we know some celebrities who have been like, look at what they've done to Assange. That's a horror show. And this is what will happen. The whole society turns into a horror show. And the most disgusting thing is that there are masses of people out there, people influenced, that endorse all this. Oh, we have to have fairness. We have to have fairness and redistribute the wealth and take care of everybody. And we'll use guns if we have to. Well, there's a simple answer for all this, and just agree that society can come together in a more libertarian way. Just accept the principle that no individual has a right to lie, cheat, steal, or kill, and no government should have a right to lie to us, cheat, steal, or kill anybody either. And people should come together under those rules if they care at all about a little bit of dignity and self-reliance. But it seems like the desire for this is very weak, and we hope we can create a little bit of excitement for those principles of liberty if we truly want to have peace and prosperity. Thank you for tuning in today. Please come back soon.